It's time for another installment of Sea Hunt. It's Still Alive here on Scuba Shack Radio. And this time we're headed back to Season 2, Episode 37, Base of Operations. Now, Base of Operations premiered on September 13th, 1959. This episode opens up with Mike Nelson underwater on a platform that he describes as a cross between a flying saucer and a raft. It's a base of operations for underwater activities. Mike tells us all about this underwater rig. It's equipped with multiple air cylinders and regulators for sustained diving time. It has a first aid kit. The kit looks pretty beat up though. Food bottles, underwater flares, and an experimental radio transmitter. He tells us that he's testing all of this out, but his biggest test is coming at him fast. That's when the scene shifts topside, where there's a boat speeding towards Mike's position. On the boat, we see two men and a woman. As Mike surfaces, he makes his way to the boat. Mike greets Jerry as he climbs on board, and Jerry introduces Mike to Norma and Harry Hervey. Mike has heard of them. They are renowned underwater photographers, and they need Mike's help. You see, they want to be the first ones to photograph a new wreck, the Santa Clarita, but it's too deep, down at 180 feet in bad water. Norma tells Mike that their deepest dive to date has only been to 90 feet. Mike declines to help them. He's too busy with his base of operations. Plus, he warns them that this is a dangerous dive, being twice as deep as they have ever been. Harry then asks if Mike would train them. You see, the photos of the wreck could be worth $100,000. Mike's not buying it. He tells them to get rich some other way as he back rolls off the boat. The next day, Mike is headed back out to the test area when he spots the Hervey's boat. They're going to try to make a deep dive on their own for practice. He doesn't want to get involved. We then see the Herveys underwater with their camera. They're posing, doing underwater acrobatics, when all of a sudden we see Harry start to pound on his head. He's beginning to suffer from nitrogen narcosis, the rapture of the deep. Harry now becomes delusional and attacks his wife with a knife. He thinks she's a sea creature. Norma breaks away and shoots to the surface. As she breaks the surface, she starts yelling for help. Somehow Mike hears her and turns around and heads back to the Hervey's boat. Jerry is on board with Norma, and he explains the situation. Harry is still down below, and there is only one way to find him. Mike Nelson needs to head down. On the bottom, Mike is looking for Harry, when Harry sneaks up on Mike, and you guessed it, a knife fight breaks out. Somehow, Harry manages to stab himself, allowing Mike to calm him down and slowly take him to the surface. Fortunately, they have enough gas to complete their decompression stops. Once they're back on board, Mike applies a pressure bandage to Harry, but now there's another problem. Norma has the bends from her rapid ascent. She needs recompression, but Mike tells us she'll be dead before she reaches the chamber. He wants Jerry to radio Dick Talbot of Avalon Airways to bring out a portable recompression chamber. Well, as luck would have it, Jerry's radio is broken. Norma won't last, so Mike needs to take her down to 160 feet for in-water recompression, while Jerry races back to port and gets Dick airborne with the chamber. Fortunately for Norma, Mike's base of operations has enough gas to keep her down for many hours. So down they go, and they land on the underwater platform. Norma's pain is too intense, and Mike decides that there's no time to wait for Jerry to get back to port. So he launches his portable transmitter to the surface and puts on his throat microphone. Mike begins transmitting. "This is Mike Nelson calling CQ. Mike Nelson calling CQ. Come in, anyone." No answer. Norma is getting worse, and she reaches for the slate and writes, "Sedative." Mike replies, "Too dangerous." Norma writes, "Pain unbearable." Mike responds, "Stick with it." And she did. Her pain starts to ease, but now she's becoming lethargic and might pass out. Mike is trying everything to keep her awake. He grabs the slate and writes, "Must stay awake." He now tries the radio again. "Mike Nelson, calling CQ, please, urgent." Nothing, so he turns to tend to Norma once more. He has her take off her mask to wake up. That helps. Then another stimulus, sharks. Mike tells us that sharks sense weakness, so Mike gets rid of them using his underwater spear equipped with a new shark repellent with the scent of porpoise. Sharks don't like porpoise because they batter them to death, he tells us. With the sharks gone, Mike is back to the radio. This time we see Dick Talbot in his trusty Avalon amphibian plane, Avalon 327. He hears Mike, but the signal is very weak. Dick tells Mike to give him a long count to try to fix the position. 10, 9, 8, 7. Dick loses the signal. He can't find Mike. Norma is now ready to give up. Mike has another idea. He points to the slate again. Must stay awake. He now grabs his bottle of liquid food and shows her how to take a drink from the container. Norma takes a swig, and it seems to help. Time to get back to the radio. Dick hears Mike again, but the signal keeps going in and out. Mike does another long count, but Dick is unable to spot the boat. Norma is at her limit, and Mike is now down to his last option. He sends up his smoke flare to the surface and begins to crank the platform up. Topside, we see Dick and Avalon 327 circling. He's looking out intently, trying to find Norma and Mike. Suddenly, he sees the smoke flare, and he descends for a landing on the water. As Mike makes it to the surface, he swims Norma off the platform, turns, and sees the amphibian. They make it to the plane and hoist Norma up the ladder. Mike tells us within half a minute she's in the portable recompression chamber and saved. Mike Nelson's underwater base of operations has met its success. I guess Harry survived his self-inflicted nitrogen narcosis stab wound as well, but we'll never know. This episode wraps up with Mike telling us to join him next week for another underwater adventure as he makes his way down the dock in his triples rig.